Hi guys, I'm a Forester here and it's time for my annual Top 10 Knives video. Now I make this video at this time of year in early January every year on purpose because I don't want to leave out any late year Christmas knives that I might purchase. I didn't have any like that this year. In fact, I only had two knives that I purchased in 2019 that might break into my top 10 list. I'll introduce you to them. This one, and I've made videos of both of these, but this is my Microtech SOCOM Elite. This is a single-purpose tactical knife for me, so that might factor in whether it breaks into the top 10 or not. This has been what I would characterize as a near grail knife for a number of years. I've wanted this knife a long time and I finally purchased it this year. The other one that might break into the top 10 is this one, and this is my Spyderco Paramilitary 2. Now, I took your recommendation in purchasing this one because I had other knives that sort of serve this same niche or role in my collection, but this came so highly recommended that I decided to go ahead and pick it up, and I'm glad that I did. And I love these red scales. This is my NC State Wolfpack knife. But we'll see if the connection to NC State Wolfpack gives this one enough edge to break into my top 10. Okay, and let me just explain briefly. My top 10 are my top favorite knives out of my collection. These are the knives that, for whatever reason, would be the last knives that I would part with. And those reasons can be varied. It can be that it's just a fun knife to play with. It can be a high quality knife. It could be an expensive knife. There's a number of reasons why they make this list, and you'll see they're varied. The bottom three are gentleman folders. Then I move into my main EDC knives, and the highest quality, the highest ranking knives tend to be expensive. They tend to be high quality. And so we'll see what those are. And let's get started right now. In the number 10 slot is this knife right here. And I'm going to do this, instead of showing you all the knives down on the table like I normally do, I'm going to try to give each knife give you a closer view of it so you can appreciate it. But this is my Southern Grind SpiderMonkey. Now, I will say I have reviews of each of these knives that I go into a lot more detail, so I'm not going to waste your time by going into all the detail in this video. I'm just going to tell you what the knife is and maybe a little bit why I think that it's in my top 10. This one's in my top 10. I think it's the perfect sized EDC knife. It fits my hand. I like the materials. It's high quality and it's very unique. I like these sculpted carbon fiber scales. And the one thing I would say about this knife is I think it flies under the radar chart. I don't see a lot of YouTube videos about this brand, Southern Grind, but I think they've got a great story to tell, and I think they're high quality knives. I really appreciate this one. Okay, in the next slot, number 9 is this one. You've seen this in a recent video of mine, and this is a Klotzli. This is the Klotzli Sarra. This is a high quality knife, and that's the one thing that I would say about Klotzli knives. They are fairly hard to come by, at least in the US markets, and so they tend to have, I've heard from even European friends that they tend to have a cult following. I love the detail of this and I love the high quality. So both of those I would characterize as gentleman folders. This is in the number 8 slot. I know y'all know what this is. It's been in my top 10 for a long time, but this is my Reeve small Sebenza. I don't need to explain much about it. Reeve has a quality brand and they stand behind their product. So I have both a large Sebenza and a small Sebenza, different wood inlays, but I really prefer the wood inlays over just the plain handles. So that's in my number 8 slot. All three of those were small gentleman folders. Now we're going to move, and this is just turned out this way. I didn't predetermine this, but we're going to move into EDC knives. So in the number 7 slot is this Benchmade 940. This was the first knife that I bought that really stepped up, say, you know, in the 100+ range. This was an expensive knife when I purchased it, at least to me. I've kept it and it has special meaning to me. You know, Benchmade makes quality knives. This one, you know, operates as smoothly as any knife that I own. I really appreciate it. I've shown this knife a lot, and I will say someone commented on one of my videos that this is the butterfly with the antenna, which I guess dates it as an older knife. So this will probably be in my collection as long as I have a knife collection. Right now it's in the number 7 slot. Okay, still in that EDC category, in the number 6 slot is this one. I knew I would love this knife as soon as I saw Benchmade come out with it, but this is the Benchmade Crooked River. There's the butterfly, no antenna on that one. You know, some people don't like the orange coloring to some of the detail. I do. I think it really makes the knife pop out. I try to give you a good look at it both sides. You know, this isn't high quality wood, but I do prefer this. I think it's called Paca wood. I love this knife. Now, I call it a large EDC knife. It's not a tactical knife to me, mainly because, you know, there's your hand, it's secure, but for general tasks, it's not one that I would identify as a tactical knife. But that's in the number 6 slot. In the number 5 slot is this one. This is my ZT 0561. I think this one, why is this one above the Benchmade? Well, I think it's more secure in my hand primarily, but also it's just a fun knife to play with. I've found over the years that I really enjoy flipper knives because they're fun to play with. Shouldn't admit it, but when I ride down the road and I'm carrying my ZT, I'm doing that the whole way. With one hand or the other, usually I change hands because one gets tired. But this is in the number 5 slot. It's in that large EDC category. Okay, the last knife in that EDC category is this one right here. I know you recognize it. This is a Hinderer. It's a Hinderer XM-18. Hinderers, and this one is above the ZT and the others mainly because of quality. I mean, you cannot deny Hinderer quality. Now, I think I made a video when I first purchased this. I was upset because of the way this handle scale sticks out. It didn't look right, but I'm long beyond that. That's how most of these are. The XM24 that I have isn't like that, but I've adjusted to that. I don't even notice it anymore. This is a EDC knife for me, mainly because of the size and the blade shape. But this makes a great EDC knife, and I enjoy carrying it. Okay, we're going to move into the top 3. And there was a change in my top 3. So this is the change, and this is what I would call in a large gentleman folder category. There you can see that wood inlay, and I think that's maple burl. I didn't check before I made the video, but this is my other Klotzli. This is the Klotzli Walker 05, and I'll try to give you a shot without all the glare on it. You know, this knife has one of the most unique shapes of any knife in my collection. And I did talk to, I don't recall his name, but he was one of the Klotzlis. I did talk to him, and he was telling me about the design of this knife and that it was designed as much for sound effects as it was anything. It's a super high quality knife, and it's one that I will not sell. You know, I guess if someone offered me an extraordinary price, I'd be tempted to sell it, but this will be in my collection for an awful long time. I really enjoy it. I don't carry it that much, but I do enjoy it. This is in the number 2 slot. This has been number 1 at times over the years, but of course this is my Reeve large Sebenza. I love those rosewood inlays. And I don't need to say much about this knife. Everybody knows about the large Sebenza. I guess I wish I carried this knife more. Well, that and the Klotz Lee. You know, these are such meaningful knives to me. I can't bring myself to really carry and use these knives. I do carry them occasionally, but more often than not, I just get them out to appreciate them. But this is in the number 2 slot. And I will say, let me bring it back on stage, that this one is in that large gentleman folder category for me, but it's so large and it's secure enough that it could play an emergency tactical role. So that's one benefit that you get from carrying this knife. I can't say that about the Klotzli. Now, this next knife has been in the number 1 slot for a number of years, and I honestly don't see anything taking its place. It's my other Hinderer. This is the Hinderer XM-WAC24. I love this knife. I love the blade shape. I think it's the buoy shape, and it just fits my hand perfectly. I like that flipper action. It's fun to play with. It hits all the buttons for me. Now, the downside is it is a single-purpose knife, you would think, but I enjoy carrying it, and you know, I use it for opening envelopes. I use it for whatever I need it for. And this is one in my top 3 that I actually carry and carry fairly often because it's just so much fun to carry. And it is a fairly bulky knife, but that fun factor makes up for it. So I'll leave it in the limelight as I sign off. This is my top 10. Now, I didn't mention, but I did see a change. The change was this knife, the Klotzli, moved up several slots. Last year, I had it moved down a little bit, but it just shows you, you know, with time, we appreciate our knives differently. And this one, I realized I would not sell before some of the knives that were ahead of it in last year's place. So anyway, that was the major change. I forgot to mention that as I was going through. But this is the number 1 knife for 2020, my Hinderer XM24. Make a comment below what knife you think would knock this out of the number 1 slot for next year. That's a knife I'll look at, even if it has a possibility. Enjoyed making this video because it gives me a chance to review my favorite knives. Y'all take care. Hey guys, I finished shooting that video and I realized that I didn't give you any explanation why these two didn't make it into the top 10. Now, to make it into the top 10, they would have had to pass this knife, so I'm going to use this knife, the Southern Grind SpiderMonkey, as my hurdle that they have to pass and give you at least a little bit of an explanation. Let's start with the Paramilitary 2. This is a knife that I've wanted for a long time, and I finally got it, and it has those beautiful scales as far as I'm concerned. You know, the knives in the top 10 have some special meaning to me. Either they're very extremely high quality, and I think it just speaks to the fact that my top 10 finally is some really high quality knives. To pass this Southern Grind SpiderMonkey, this knife really speaks to me. I mean, for a number of reasons, I won't go into all the details, but you know, I like the quality of the knife as well as the story that the company has to tell, and this doesn't reach up to that standard. Now, this one's a little more interesting because this is a single-purpose tactical knife, and I've noticed over the years that I've done these top 10 ratings that my tactical knives that just have a single purpose have tended to fall out of favor. And so, for instance, the Emerson Gentleman Gem used to be in my top 10, but as I got higher quality multi-purpose knives, it's dropped down and finally out of the top 10. And I would rank this above the Gentleman Gem, but it's still in that same type of category. So it didn't make it primarily because it's a single purpose tactical knife. So there you have it. Just wanted to add that little bit of information that I left out. Y'all take care.